going through the mountains of eastern Pennsylvania between Pottstown and Danville. So this is if you look at a map, it's that part of Pennsylvania right near the Susquehanna River, where you get all these long curving ridges, sort of a northern extension of the Blue Ridge and the Shenandoah Valley. They just go on and on and on for hundreds of miles, and it's very, very beautiful green, lush hillsides, as you can see. You can see for miles, but it's the reason why there's a lot of trucking in this area is there's a lot of distribution centers for big companies like Walmart, Lowe's. I was just delivering eggs that I brought from Ohio to Pottstown Dollar General. So it seems strange that you have up on these mountaintops and these old coal mining towns where a lot of the coal mines are all overgrown, these distribution centers. And my thought on this is because when a lot of the coal mines closed, a lot of the older people are dying off or they're moving away. The kids are moving to the cities. We're not too far from Philadelphia, far enough, and I think the land's cheap. I think these big companies build these distribution centers because the land's cheap, and there is a labor pool, both from the remnant coal mining population, but there's also a large Spanish Caribbean influx. And I noticed this in Hazleton, PA, which is not too far from here, where 80 and 81 cross. And that's, I think there's jobs and there's a lot of population, and there are a lot of working class immigrants, and they come here and they work in the distribution centers. So it's really interesting just to see the cultural changes and the natural environment, how it changes as you go through this great country, this great continent. Okay, so here now I've come down off the mountain. I can even hear my ears pop. It's probably at least 1,000 feet or more. So I'm coming down into the valley now. We have some lowlands and some rolling hills, and then the Susquehanna River, which for being such a huge river, it really cuts through some mountainous area, all the way down to about Harrisburg, where you get some bluffs. Even the Appalachian Trail crosses right above Harrisburg, and by there it's a very wide river. I believe it's the largest on the East Coast for total water flow between the Mississippi and the St. Lawrence. St. John could be bigger, but I think as far as the East Coast of the U.S., I'm pretty sure it's the biggest river, the Susquehanna, because it just drains such a large area of Pennsylvania and parts of New York. And its watershed is, for the most part, mountainous. Just a very rugged, mountainous area. Okay, so now we're in a kind of agricultural area. Some fields. Actually, where I'm going now, it's I want to say they're Mennonite, or there's some kind of religious group that the women wear head coverings, the men have beards, like Amish, but I don't think they're Amish. It's a Catholic cemetery, and where I'm going, they actually recycle old food, a lot of like donuts and things like that, and it's for bear bait. So I'm picking up a bunch of old food, like baked goods, like expired baked goods, and I'm putting them in the back of the reefer. I don't know if they want me to run the reefer, probably not. But I just put it in there dry and bring it up to Maine, for someone in Washington County is using it for bear bait. So this is once again, for this part of the country, for being so rugged and wild, you'd think it would be a wilderness. And I think for all intents and purposes, it should be. This should be a vast hunting preserve. And a lot of it is. There's a lot of big nature preserves in Pennsylvania, like where I was last night off of 80, just west of here, kind of south of Williamsport. It's a big, the Bald Eagle State Park. It's a vast wilderness area used as a hunting preserve. I think most of this area really should be like that, but it was just the coal mining in this part of the state, and just the massive population that came in to work in the mines and then now to work in these distribution centers as warehouse workers. And for being such a rugged mountainous country, it's quite densely populated. And of course the valleys are very intensively farmed. There's a lot of agriculture. And we're only about an hour and a half from Philadelphia, maybe 2 hours into New York. So there's major population centers quite close to here. So that definitely affects the cultural landscape here. Interesting, I saw one of these old Revolutionary War flags. It says Liberty, and it has a crescent. I hadn't seen that one. I've seen the one with the tree, and then I hadn't seen one with the crescent. That's kind of cool. Alright, so here we are. We're coming into a little town here. I don't think this is quite Danville. Danville is another. I don't know. Danville, I believe, that's where we crossed the Susquehanna River. Okay, let's see. Oh, the Knoebels Amusement Park. I always see signs for this, and I guess I'm near where it actually is. 3 miles to Knoebels Amusement Park. It's quite fun for kids in Pennsylvania. They really love it. I always like Pennsylvania. It's where my mother's from. I've had some good friends throughout the years from this state. There's police. Make sure we're on the speed limit. Oh, it's 35. He's going 25 just to be safe. Usually small towns like this, it's 25, but here it's 35 for some reason. West 54. See all these old buildings? And they're very close to the road. Up north you'd have larger sidewalks because they need places to put all the snow. It just doesn't snow as much here, I guess. We're in the border of the humid subtropical climate zone. To the north of here would be more humid continental, warm summer, right? And we're getting down into the CFA climate zone. So 2 things really interest me as I travel around. One is the climate and the natural vegetation, the rainfall, the plant growth, the animals, what kind of roadkill you see, like armadillos in the south, and deer. Vote Republican. Jesus. And the other, like science just said, is the human population, the human culture, languages, cultures. Going into that Walmart in Hazleton, PA, a couple months ago, and being amazed that almost every single person was Puerto Rican or Dominican, speaking Spanish, Caribbean. Very striking, and it was surprising. Almost every single person in there, and even the music they were playing and the products were a lot of them geared towards that population. Just fascinating. And then you go in another area, and it's it's all German or something. It's all black, African American. The South is fascinating. African American and white, but really more specifically British and Scots-Irish population. And that's the Greater Appalachian, which this is kind of on the fringes of. It really starts west of here, on the other side of the Susquehanna, as you get down in towards like Altoona and out, south of Pittsburgh. No, not even that far, like Northumberland County, I think it's called. Just, like the headwaters of the Juniata River. That's really the start of what Colin Woodard calls the Greater Appalachia region. This would still be considered Midlands, still close enough to Philadelphia, still more German in terms of who its original founders were. Of course, probably Lenape way back. Very few Native Americans now, as far as I know. They were all pushed west during the colonial period. So I don't know of any Native reservations here, but I don't know of any in Pennsylvania. Upstate New York, there's some. Pennsylvania. Yeah, I guess you have a Seneca. Sorry about that wobble. That's just caused by my film mount. Also the bugs on the windshield. That's just the time of year. This is June. Into June, it's the buggiest time of the year in the northern United States. Okay, we are West 54. The land's really opening up. We've got a good view of the Susquehanna River pretty soon here. And that's made across there. Across that valley there. That would be Danville. It's all 55 miles an hour through here. The Kubota dealer. Trucks, he's this one. JP Hunt. These people have a firewood business. Alright, there it is. That looks like that might be a VA hospital in the valley there. Some kind of medical facility. But a lot of aging veterans in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the states that I believe has had population decline. I think the most population decline of any states in recent years. This is something that interests me. While I'm driving, I'll often listen to, talks about, just off of YouTube, talks about, statistics, population statistics. There's some good series I can recommend if anyone's interested in. But the states that have really seen population decline, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, and these Rust Belt areas, former manufacturing regions. Kind of the industrial centers 50, 100 years ago. Everyone's moving to the south and the west. Texas, Florida, North Carolina. That's where people want to live. Arizona, Idaho. But people are leaving California because it's too expensive. And a lot of people say there's a lot of restrictive laws. I don't know. You asked me about California. I'm going to break from being your stereotypical truck driver and say I love it. I love California. It's one of my favorite states. It's the most beautiful land, the most perfect climate. Okay, I don't care much for the urban sprawl and the massive overdevelopment. And I'm sure all those environmental laws have good reason. I mean, they have some of the worst air pollution in the country. It makes sense they'd be wanting to switch to more ecological You know, and I actually like the idea, and I've always supported this, of at least the northwest coast seceding and forming Cascadia. And I've always thought that was a great idea. In fact, and I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for this, but I love all the land of Turtle Island, North America. I think everywhere is great, but I think having the current political boundaries make absolutely no sense. Why do we have these square states? Why do we have these straight lines separating watersheds, separating cultural areas? If you look at the Colin Woodard's nations, the 11 nations or the 13 nations, they're not straight lines. They don't follow state lines. If anything, they follow sort of natural, settlement streams of people, but they're often dictated by mountain ranges and watersheds of rivers. Like, for example, Greater Appalachian, which is the largest population in any of the regions. It's basically the Appalachian Mountains, which facilitated movement through the Ridge and Valley movement, which is, a northern extension of it, began in Pennsylvania, followed the wagon roads south and west down the Shenandoah Valley or down the Ohio, out into the southern Midwest, the Ozark Highlands, and then the sort of northern and highland parts of Texas. The Texas Hill Country is kind of where it stops, because then it butts up against El Norte, which is the Hispanic region. Okay, so that's basically a natural region that affected the mostly Scots-Irish population that settled there. Okay, let's say the same for Midlands, for the area of the Delaware Valley, and then what spread west from there. And Yankeedom as what spread west from New England. New France is largely the St. Lawrence Valley, and then the French Canadians that spread out from those regions, including along the Mississippi and Louisiana, Cajun country. The left coast, that's Cascadia. Far west, that's environmental reasons made it harder to settle. I would alter Colin Woodard's regions slightly in that. I think it's a really good analysis, but I would break it up a little bit further. Like, for example, I would have the Midwest be its own separate region, like the Great Lakes area and the Upper Midwest. Even though you could include it with Yankeedom, I think it's distinct enough. It's more German and Scandinavian. It could be its own region, like Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, even like Chicagoland. I wouldn't necessarily lump it together with New England. I think Florida could be its own region. Not just South Florida, but all of Florida. And Deep South, I have this idea about Deep South. I don't know if I want to go into it right now. It might be a little bit too controversial. But I'll go into it. Okay, so I've always been interested in the idea of creating, I think this is from reading Malcolm X's autobiography and Nation of Islam ideas, and like UN and IA, Pan-African thought, that I really think that having New Africa would be a really positive thing, and having it be I think it is a distinct region of the United States, and I think it's maybe to have two Souths. Now, I guess now I'm getting into sort of like political what ifs, like what if Quebec seceded and then the rest of North America, Canada, and then the United States just broke up into all these separate countries. Well, okay, what if that did happen? And then the South, what if the South became at least two? The upland South could be Greater Appalachia. Have its capital be Nashville. Okay? It extends from the Washington, D.C. area. Maybe its port could be like, it could include Tidewater, so its port could be the Hampton Roads, Chesapeake, Norfolk area. And then it could include the whole upland south, and then it could go all the way up to, say, the borders of Texas, because I want Texas to be its own country. Okay, and then what about the deep south, the lowland south? Okay, so that could be all, or part of, if not all, could be New Africa, which would be, if not predominantly, largely African American. Its capital could be Atlanta, and it could include lowlands, South Carolina. It could start maybe around Wilmington. It could include the Geechee Gully country of the Lake Charleston and across to Savannah. I don't think it would go into Florida. I think Florida could be its own country. But most of Georgia, southern Alabama, large parts of Mississippi, Louisiana, maybe a little bit of Arkansas, but Texas, it would stop at Texas because I think Texas should be its own country. Except for the El Norte parts, that could be its own country. Alright. So these are the ideas of how the map could be redrawn to better reflect not just culture, but natural environment too. And they don't have to be totally separate countries, but just sort of like, it could be sort of like a loose North American Commonwealth, like a European Union, but instead of U.S. states and Canadian provinces, you'd actually have these sort of mega regions like Greater Appalachia, New Africa. Okay, so I think I'm through Danville, coming out on I-80. I'm going to stop this video, but hopefully this worked out, and if this is good, I'll do more of these. Alright, peace.